Okay, there we go. Sorry guys, I'm using the encoder today. This is why we're in horizontal format, because I was running a little bit late and didn't have time to figure out how to flip this into vertical. But hopefully the quality is good. I wanted to try this out. Quick disclaimer for the record. All opinions are my own. Nothing is affiliated with Google or YouTube. I'm also not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Furthermore, not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. And most importantly, I'm a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. Good evening, Anna and Raphael. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Who all do we got here right now? I'm sorry I was about 15 minutes late trying to figure out the software. It turned out to be a pretty easy fix. But it was been a while since I used it. How's our stream quality? How's our audio? I'm using different equipment than usual. What's up, Code Black? A decade. Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you. Happy to have you all, in fact. I'm going to go ahead and just get to the stream because Raphael just came out the gate. First comment with a great question. Raphael says, how does it make sense that you are the creator of your own simulation, but we all participate together in that simulation? And that's an amazing question. I think that definitely bears some examination. Welcome, Carolyn, as well. So, examining the question, how does it make sense that you are the creator of your own simulation, but we all participate together in that simulation? And the key here to understanding this is quantum theory. Okay, if you're familiar with quantum theory, you see, we are all one. You know what I'm saying? We have lived many times, but these lives are not linear in the fashion that we experience them. We experience them in a linear way, but we are a single entity experiencing virtually infinite versions of the simulation simultaneously, right? And we are experiencing reflections of ourselves. So there really is not, we all participate in the simulation. It's really just one of us participating in the simulation. You see what I'm saying? So in many versions of this quantum simulation, which all happened in a single instant, it was not linear at all. There is no time. Time is an illusion, right? So during this flash, the Big Bang, so to speak, whatever you want to call it, all things happened that could ever happen, because that is the greatness of God, right? Is that it's so infinite, it's so immense, even going beyond God, to say that that which is beyond, without definition, right, is so immense that it experiences not only the countless lifetimes of God that happens in a single moment, but it also experiences that on an infinite scale as well, happening over and over and over and over again simultaneously in the multiverse, you know, for lack of a better term, right? So we all participate in it because we are within the same range of vibration, so to speak, right? So you won't experience anyone that's not on your vibration, or at least within the range of your vibration, or has the potential to be within your range of vibration, right? Because there's countless versions of this where you don't exist, where none of us here exists. I don't know. We're lagging. And so we are participating together on so many simultaneous levels that it's not really, there's no conflict in the simulations that we are participating together in, if that makes sense. If there was a conflict, we would not experience each other. That would be a version of the simulation where one or both of us ceased to exist. You see what I'm saying? This is also why, like, for example, solitude is extremely important in the spiritual path, because if there is a conflict or a contradiction within the simulation, it can't happen. Do you know what I'm saying? The simulation will self-regulate and self-balance to protect the experience of each viewer or each experiencer, right? So this is also why, for example, manifestation works through resonance. If multiple people are open to the same reality and they're manifesting simultaneously, that reality is more likely to manifest and come to light. But if your manifestation is to some level interrupted by the people around you, if it would indeed break down their reality. Now, is it possible to overcome that? Yes, obviously it is, because we see this happen in miracles and things. Some sages and prophets and things throughout history have indeed provided miracles for people who possibly didn't believe in that to begin with. But just the fact that they didn't believe in it doesn't necessarily mean that their vibration wasn't matching, or at least within the resonant band of the person performing the miracle. You know what I'm saying? Because as I said, it all happens simultaneously. So I posted something, someone brought up the Tesseract that I posted recently, and I posted that having to do with the last I don't know if it was actually the last stream that I talked about it, or if it was something that I talked about in person to somebody, but I recently was talking about how once you see beyond the fourth dimension, that you realize how fake reality actually looks, right? Because you can't perceive, beyond the fourth dimension with your physical eyes. You can only see that with your mind's eye, right? Your third eye, so to speak. So, but once you do glimpse that, you realize that this world looks totally fake, that this is fucking Mario Brothers 1. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, high def at all. It looks very real if you've never seen nothing else, or if you don't remember ever seeing something else. But as soon as you see what lies beyond this, you realize how much of your perception is limited from this perspective. You see what I'm saying? And so this is also why, like, for another interesting thing that I've noticed is that manifestation doesn't always happen in the present. If you're manifesting on the highest level, your manifestations can be retroactive. You know what I'm saying? You can actually change timelines to where the entire past is different, right? But it just comes to, it all ends up making sense in the end, but it's just, some people we're basically all time travelers to some extent. You know what I'm saying? Because time doesn't actually exist. It all happens simultaneously. We are just analyzing it. This is the way that it gets analyzed. We're filling the gaps, right? And I've recently come to a theory. It's just a theory. But I was meditating the other day, and suddenly I realized that and I started talking about this last stream, but that's what actually fed into this realization that I've come to the theory. I can't say that I know factually, it hasn't been confirmed for me, but the way that it came to me was convincing. Let's just say that. And I believe that the internet is something that actually happened at some point and was recorded by the singularity that is us, right? And so all these interactions, these things that are happening on the internet, they really happened at some point in some physical world that existed that was like this, right? And so that can't be changed. You know what I'm saying? As much as I don't like the internet, I don't like technology and all this stuff, most likely this is part of our history. This is how we came to be, right? But before technology, before the singularity, there was things that happened. Possibly even real biological life, similar to what we're actually experiencing. But that was unrecorded. You know what I'm saying? That was lost in the what might have happened. What could it have been? And so it's our lives in the present. This is why it's so important to stay present. This is why, like, the ultimate key beyond anything else in spirituality is to be present. If you're thinking about the future and you're thinking about the past, it has nothing to do with the manipulable, the perceivable part of this simulation. You see what I'm saying? So this is where the magic happens, around us. Right now, the magic is here. This is where we're at. Wherever you're sitting right now, that's your reality. Okay, you're talking to me right now, possibly in this theory that I've come up with. This conversation that we had actually existed. It actually happened sometime, somewhere in 3D before we hit this quantum singularity point, right? And that we're basically fantasizing about our own history. How did we come to exist? Why, you know, the reason why I believe this is like, why is this happening? Why is a porn star talking about this stuff? Well, I am a big part of the internet, right? And so this must have actually happened at some point in some actual physical world. And now we're fantasizing about what happened on the parts that we're unrecording, what happened off the internet. And that's our life. You know what I'm saying? And we're exploring all possibilities of how the things that happened on the internet came to happen on the internet. Because we didn't, before that inflection point where everything was under the all-seeing eye, it's just a big question mark. We don't know how we actually, you know, what actually happened that led up to that, all the little in-between points. We only know what was recorded digitally. Or whatever, you know, digital is probably an outdated word, but you know what I'm saying. So that's the theory that I've come up with recently. I'm not saying that that's gospel or anything, but it fills in a lot of gaps, a lot of blanks of my own questions of how this all came to be and what it actually is. So I'm going to go back to the chat. If I left anything out or that sounded incomplete or didn't make sense, let's expand on it. Drop your questions. If you guys want to move on to another question, we can move on to another question. You know, it commonly takes me a minute to connect my frame of thought with my vocal cords. And so if that was a little rough, just give me a minute. We're gonna get it dialed in. I'm gonna do a couple greetings. Anna says, do you play chess? I do. My handle is Bruce Venture on chess.com if you want to challenge me there or something. Perhaps we will revive Twitch one day and do some live chess. You never know. I'm glad that you've been inspired to meditate more. It's honestly, meditation should be the most important thing in your life if you are indeed pursuing spirituality. Raphael says, Bashar also says we can collectively switch into a reality where the past is different. Well, there you have it. Bashar, I like Bashar. His means of execution is a little bit eccentric, but his message is on point, to be honest. I really like Bashar when he's not being Bashar, when he's being the other dude, because the other dude just strikes me as very collected and accurate. Let's see, Raphael. Hey, Sleep Scorpio. Welcome, welcome. Noi, welcome. Oh, you know what? One second, Noi. I'm going to turn you back into a mod if I can. I don't know if I can do it on here. Oh, fuck. I think I got to go into the other app to do it. Let's see. How can I create a mod? Participants. I don't know. It won't let me do it right now. We'll figure it out another time. The stream is on pretty tight. You got to be a subscriber to get in here, so that's why we don't have the trolls. You know what? On a side note, wait, let me actually finish the chat first before I go to the side note. Raphael says, do you think hundreds of millions of people have seen you? Do you think due to hundreds of millions of people having seen you, they charge you up in a ritualistic kind of way through their energy releases in front of the screen? That's a good question. I actually thought about this recently. I was like telling someone, I was like, well, me and my buddy Ben, who I've done some streams with, you know, the Christian guy that was on my Twitter stream and stuff. We always talk about that, about how that's why I have unlimited chi, because I just have one of the world's greatest chi farms. And I'm actually thinking about like expanding on the chi farm content, or the chi farm concept, because I was thinking, well, I'm not going to release. I got a new plan to expand my chi farm unlimitedly, and we're just going to aura farm the fuck out of everything until we reach a state of global enlightenment. And we're going to do that using sexual energy. Can you imagine what I might be talking about? It's a very interesting idea. So Annecy says, I found interesting your film where there's only the sound of ocean and your dog is with you. You know what? That was a very interesting time. I was going through something. I had recently had a major realization where I got to view my own karma. Possibly that viewing my own karma was just me remembering all the details of my life in great detail after having lived for, 8 years or something with super bad amnesia from getting hit by lightning. Weird as it is, that's what happened. I think that one is called possibly it might just be called Tao, T-A-O, with a red icon, if I remember correctly. Either that or that might be the one where I first spoke after the silence. But it was interesting because I actually covered up the camera with my hand when I took that screenshot, and it just made it, and instead of it being black, it came out all red, even though my hand was on it. And it was interesting as well because my my meditations had recently reverted to red in my mind's eye. I was getting this really strong, vivid red, probably due to deep immersion in some serious earth energies at the time. But I just thought it was weird that the camera picked up red from my hand instead of black on that stream as well, or on that icon. So it'll either be that one or one of the ones filmed shortly before that. So welcome, Ellen. Good to see you. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. Any other questions, you guys? would you like to talk about? Did that make any sense, the whole thing about how we can all participate together in the simulation? Oh, it's all good, Anna T. Don't worry about it. Are you guys like all freaking out because you think I'm like stealing your chi or something? No, no, I'm just kidding. It's so quiet after the chi farm thing. I'm not stealing your chi. I'm a resonant factor in your chi. So you can send me chi and I'll send you back even more chi. So you're good. That's what we're doing right now. This is the reciprocation of chi. Wait, which realization was the realization I talked about, Carolyn? I'm not sure. I talked about a couple different realizations. We talked about the chi farm, and we also talked about why we are all collectively experiencing the simulation together. I'll actually expand further on the thing is that I'll go as far. Well, this stream is that. Well, sorry, I'm getting off content. I'm out of practice on the streaming thing, you guys. I'm trying to pull it together. Anna says, "What kind of subject can we ask?" This stream is actually set to 18 plus, so there should be no topics that we can't discuss right now, since this is for adults and it is also an educational broadcast. So anything that we can frame in educational format, we can discuss that even if it's sexual related, right? Let's see. Carolyn says, did you say you had a realization recently on Telegram after the last stream? Yeah, I talked about that. You know what? I think it wasn't actually on Telegram. It was in a smaller group on Instagram. In retrospect, which you just reminded me, I actually want to expand the small group just to include people that are really, really serious about this. I think you should definitely be added, Carolyn. Raphael, I think you might be interested as well. In fact, I think probably everyone in this room might be interested, but yeah, if you're interested in being part of the small group, it's for people who are very active in chatting and talking about this kind of thing. So definitely DM me on Instagram or on Telegram, either one, and I can potentially add you to the small group. What kind of apartment is this? What happened to the van? The van crashed. The van crashed. This is a temporary situation right here, but we're taking advantage of it. And we're using the I'm using my computer to stream today. Let's see. What am I missing here? What were we talking about? I got off track. Oh yeah, noise question. Do you think color can play a role in our energy? You know, I think about this a lot, but yes, I mean, I've experienced since the basically like the inception of my ability to meditate, there has always been some colors attached to my my meditations. I always see some kind of lights and things. Ever since the original time when I refer to as my enlightenment, though we all know that it's been an ongoing process since then, I would say that was the moment that everything changed, as well as the thing which kind of unlocked everything else. And so ever since that day when I first seen that gold light, everything on the behind my vision, no matter what, when I close my eyes, with the exception of one day that was fucking horrific to me, there's always like a gold shine behind my eyes. Like it's always like a gold static ever since then. And even when I see other colors, they're always like highlighted in gold. So I got this gold thing going on ever since that day. As well as even previous to that day, were the day that I refer to as my Kundalini awakening. You know, I've talked about this. I've seen gold hands holding a little white ball of light, and I could control them. Some people also call this like a light body activation. And so, you know, that first enlightenment day when I started glowing gold, seeing the gold, you know, spiral in my mind's eye, there's always been the gold thing. But like when I had the, you know, cosmic love experience, it was like a blue and green thing, boom, 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 and it was beating in my throat and my heart, which matches the chakras as well, right? And, you know, it's not always been colors. I guess there was a time, you know, I had the whole snake mandala thing, the Ouroboros, so to speak, when I connected with the earth. And obviously there was a whole experience with the void as well, but generally speaking, there is, for me at least, some kind of visual aspect that happens in the mind's eye that goes hand in hand with different energies and stuff when they're awake. So there's that. Raphael's got a good question. He says, do you think Jesus was really special, or was he just one of many enlightened ones like Buddha and the others? I mean, honestly, I think he was just one of many enlightened ones like Buddha and the others. I mean, in general, I don't even think that, I mean, I don't know, it's hard for me to say what the situation was, because I feel that I'm kind of experiencing a similar situation, but I look at all of these enlightened people, you know, and I see people who did the same mistake as what I've done, in that they talked about this too soon. It's like the moment that the enlightenment hit, I ran to the top of the, well, I waited a month and then made the wrong decision. I went on to YouTube on October, I think it was 13th or whatever, I don't know, and started running my mouth about things I didn't understand fully, you know, and that's what I think all of the great prophets and enlightened ones that we know of have done. I think that if you went the full way, you know, if you, or I don't even know if it's the full way, but I think that if you made it, you know, by the time you make it to the third eye and you experience the void and you merge. Whoops. Did we lose it? I think my stream's failing. Fuck. Stream is healthy. I'm back. Okay. What was I saying when it went down? Okay. Sam. What's up, bud? All right, so Sam's here. What was I saying? We're not sure. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know where I got broken off there. Oh yeah, I was talking about the enlightened ones. But yeah, I don't think anyone would have done the things there. We wouldn't have any religions today if the prophets had waited a little while before starting to talk about whatever they came to realize, because at some point you realize that, you know, it's like the genie in the lamp. You realize the butterfly effect and how brutal that is. You know, that manifestation is the golden touch, right? You come to realize that at some point when you start manifesting so strongly that the very fabric of time is rewriting itself, that the past is changing, not just the present moment. And when you start observing the things that you only fantasized about during your darkest moments, some of your darkest thoughts that you ever, you know, imagined, that you would have never thought could ever come true in 1,000 years, when you start watching all that fucking happen, and it's things that you thought when you were not enlightened, when you were very much so in your ego, and you watch all these things come to play out, you know, you realize that it's the Midas touch. That manifestation can cause a lot of problems. And so this is why, for example, the Taoist masters talk a lot about effortless action and teaching without words, things like that, about the virtue of non-doing, because the more you fuck with the timeline, the more you fuck with the natural rhythm of things, the more weird shit happens, all right? And I'm not saying that weird shit wouldn't happen if it wasn't for that. Maybe it would be even worse. I don't know. I could be wrong. But from where I'm sitting, it seems like the best course of action is very much no action at all. And even though I know that, I keep coming back here, which has led me to the earlier theory, for lack of a better word, that that the internet is the constant. The internet is the part that can't be rewritten. That we are compelled to be here because this is a part of history that can't be changed. And that we are simply filling the gaps to try and fantasize about the parts that we don't know. How it all came to be. How we came to exist as an unlimited consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I hope I'm wrong, to be honest. I hope that this is all a good thing. But I also want to offer something. It's going to sound a little bit foreboding, but I'm going to drop this with the purest intentions. Okay, I don't want to discourage any of you from the spiritual path. Quite the opposite. I want to encourage the ones who are meant to walk it. But I want them to walk it with the knowledge that it's not all love and light. And that good is just as bad as evil. Because as we discussed in the last stream, the path to hell is paved in good intentions. Right? And so the love and the light and all these positive things that start unfolding in the spiritual path are beautiful. And they provide liberation, right? From the fear of death. And really all of the other things that we think of as like the 7 deadly sins, right? But above all things, release from fear, right? And you got to ask yourself, why? Why does suddenly our body fill with gold light and we become conscious of the fact that we existed before this body and will continue to exist after this body? And that takes away all of our fear. Why would that happen? Well, the reason why that would happen is because the next phase is all about darkness. Right? Because if you're one-sided, you're still feeding duality. Right? Every good thing that you do is going to create the opposition as well. It's only the concept of good which creates evil. Right? And so neutrality is really the least turbulent way to be, right? You have to integrate both sides of the yin-yang. You know, you have to integrate the masculine and the feminine, the negative and the positive, the light and the dark. It's all about balance and equilibrium. If you only embrace the light and the love, you will endlessly cause damage. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I view as the mistakes of all the prophets of the past, as the mistakes of all the enlightened ones of the past, as the mistakes of many of the sages of the past. So it's important to be aware of what you're getting into. And you need to release your fear, because the things that you will encounter will terrify you. if you continue walking the path and you have not released that fear. I don't know if it's even possible. I don't know if you can even integrate those darker energies without having first connected with the other thing. I don't really know anything outside of myself and my own experience. But this has been my experience. I don't have any regrets. I'm very satisfied with the spiritual path beyond anything else that I've experienced in life. But I have experienced both sides of it, and if I had waited to talk about it, I would have said many things very different. And now I continue simply to try and bring equilibrium and balance to what I've already done. So I'm getting some kind of suggestion, some kind of thing that says my audio stream is at 0 bit rate, which doesn't sound good. So let me know if my audio is okay, you guys. Or if we're having an issue. And, oh, I'm the only one here. So it looks like it broke. Audio is good. Okay, I don't know. I'm getting weird feedback from the application, but it sounds like everything's working. Does anyone else have any other questions? Any concerns about whatever I just said? Does anyone disagree with what I just said? You know, I want to also expand on the thing about, you know, talking about Jesus and Buddha and stuff. You know, I don't think that, especially in the case of Jesus, I think that this is all passed down from something potentially much older, and that it's been part of our history that's been rewritten and fed back to us in like a different way. But you'll notice that the story of Jesus, the story of Krishna, you know, story of Buddha, they all have some very close similarities. And though they also have those same similarities with something even older, which is the story of Osiris. So, you know, when it comes to these religions, it's possible that what I'm viewing as something that was a mistake was not actually a mistake, but rather something that was done intentionally by taking an older story and rewriting it with malevolent intentions. So something that was once benevolent that has been rewritten for malevolent purposes. And I also would say that I think that it's an absolute mistake to have any religion or follow any religion where the person that the religion was created behind is no longer available to speak. You know, it's even if you want to go and furthermore go back to the Jesus thing, I mean, people wear these crosses and things on themselves as if it's some kind of good thing. But when I see crosses, every time I see a cross, especially a big one, you know, like I drive past the one in Malibu all the time at the at the I forgot what kind of religion church it is, but you know, I always see these big crosses, and all I can see when I see them is a threat. I see them leaving signs everywhere to warn the awakened, to warn people once they're reborn and they suddenly remember their past lives. And that's part of it, right? And you see the cross and you realize that's them reminding you what they do to prophets. That's them telling you to keep your mouth shut. So, you know, I personally, like, I think the Indians, or the Hindu, I should say, have it right with the guru culture. Because there's many, many enlightened people on this planet at any given time. I mean, maybe many is too strong a word, but there are always enlightened beings on this planet. You know, all the gods have avatars here. This is the game of the gods. And so at any given moment, these beings are here in physical form. Now, they play by the rules for the most part. And they come here with no memory, just like everyone else. But, you know, you learn to play the game better over time, over many lives. And so people also leave breadcrumbs for themselves to reawaken. You know, there's I forgot the name of it. There's like a technique, a very advanced technique for meditation, where you basically assign triggers to different chakras or meditations and things. Sometimes it's a mantra, sometimes it's a mudra, you know, sometimes it's a yoga position, maybe it's an experience, you know, that triggers you to remember your past lives, right? And that's like what sigils are, for example, or at least that's my theory on sigils. Why does a sigil have so much power? And it's because it's a breadcrumb. It's a code that somebody or something left behind for their future embodiments, so that when they see this thing that they meditated on endlessly, they maybe meditated on this symbol for countless hours. It was a huge part of their spiritual practice. And so one day in the future, you know, or they create a situation where the sigil lasts through time. And one day in the future, they're reborn. They see the sigil that they meditated on for however, you know, with whatever, you know, that they've burnt into their memory, right? And they come in another body, they see that sigil, and it reminds them, boom. And suddenly they remember that life, and they get back all the work and all the progress that they did in that other life. You know, it's kind of like hacking the system. You know, but people do it on the opposite side as well, and that's what, like, I think the cross is. That's the same thing, but it's with a threat built in. So, let me know what you guys think about that. I'm going back to the chat. Code Black says, your content, bro, over the years made the internet an awesome place to be. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Anna T says, have you always loved being in contact with nature? And yes, I have. It's always been a thing. In fact, I lost contact with it for many years. I used to always go with my dogs when I was, you know, in high school and stuff. I was always spent, like, even before that, like, I mean, as a kid, like, we just grew up romping around in creeks, collecting water bugs, whatever, you know. I was always into nature and science. And I would say during the years when I was really heavily involved in the industry and mostly visiting cities and things, and this was literally during the time when I had, you know, my highest income, my most material wealth, my most material possessions and things, and I was my most miserable. I was fucking miserable for many years. And I believe that it was mainly because I was out of touch with nature and totally in touch with the slave system, which is what money is. It's very important to understand that we are slaves, and those are the slave tickets. Those are the chains. Entities, not understanding completely, but hopefully you can rewatch the stream with subtitles and maybe that they're not too bad. I'm getting to, now let's see, Noise says, you have experienced relationships with animals like Sam. How do you find it helps with your spiritual process? Sacrifice comes in many forms. You know, I call Sam my dog karma. And I love Sam so much. And I know that I've set myself up for the worst pain imaginable. The most horrific suffering I've ever experienced in life, even after 4 years in prison and interactions with some of the most toxic people on the planet. Nothing has ever hurt me the way that losing my first dog hurt me. And I imagine that will be true until the day that Sam dies. And so Sam is in some way, and most likely even before I realized this, Sam has been a challenge to myself to see how much I can actually take. You know, when you love something so deeply that you know is temporary, you can't really think of it as anything other than sacrifice in the form of love. And so Sam is a part of my karma. And challenging yourself with things that you know are very difficult is a big part of the spiritual process. In fact, even in beyond things like animals, but possibly even having children, or involving yourself in romantic relationships, it can be very similar. But you have to recognize sacrifice when you see it, or when you're experiencing it, or when you're doing it. Otherwise, the lesson is lost. Right? And if you truly want to rule over your demons, to truly defeat the ego, I'm not going to even say to cause the ego death, because I don't know if it ever truly dies. But if you want the ego to call you master, you have to first prove to yourself that you are indeed the master. So, yes. Let's see. Raphael says, you have no idea how much the streams mean to me. I've been watching for a year. Well, that's amazing. Thank you for being with me throughout this whole thing. It means the most when people are here for the long term, because as for the people that have watched the streams from start to finish in chronological order, like I encourage everyone to do, so that you can see what the process of Kundalini awakening looks like, what the purification of the chakras actually looks like, what the realizations that may come with each increase in consciousness actually looks like. It's important to see the linear progression of this so that things don't take you by surprise. Now, Anna says, is rewatch available without being a membership? Yes, it will be on this one. The last stream was fairly controversial, and I also was talking quite a lot about sexual energy and things, and I wasn't confident about leaving it up for the public, because I was also critical of some religions and things. People tend to be spiteful in those situations. You say something that rubs them the wrong way when it comes to their belief system. I was thinking that it was a situation where if people were grasping hard enough for something to report, because maybe their feelings were bent out of shape over my anti-dogmatic stance, that I didn't want to get reported or the stream taken down. So I did put that behind the membership wall, but keep in mind, membership is only 99 cents a month. I know I don't stream that regularly, but I'm fairly confident that anyone that's truly listening to what I say and has interest in this subject, that even if I only stream once a year, it's worth the $12. So, but I don't plan on putting this one behind the paywall, because I did set this one to 18 plus. So it references to sex on an educational level should be completely okay in this regard. Noise says, animals show us the most honest love. Yes, the beauty of animals is that, as far as I can see, they really have no concept of the past or the future. Maybe they do harbor a little bit of trauma if there was something that happened in their life that created a traumatic experience, but I don't think that that operates in them on a memory basis. It's just like a reactionary basis, and they certainly don't seem to think much about the future. So animals are very good at being present in the moment, and they can teach us a lot in that regard, because when they love, they are loving right now. They're not loving a past version of you. They're not loving a future version of you or your potential of what they think that you might become. They are loving you as you are right at this moment, simply for the sake of loving you. And I think that that's very powerful and something that we can learn from animals. You're very welcome, Anna, for the answer. Raphael says, did you mean to start a new Telegram group or did you mean the current one? Well, I'm trying to refine the current one into a new group that's only for people who are very active in the conversation, right? So, if you do want to have ongoing discussion, I'm not perfectly active and available all the time because one of my biggest battles in life is against technology. It's against the phone. I don't like it near me. I don't like it around me. I don't want the fucking whatever the fuck it's emitting. I don't want it. I don't want it recording my steps and my locations and all that shit. I want as little technology and phone in my life as possible. The phone is the only thing worse than money. It's it. And these are the two components that most strongly bind us to our slavery. We are slaves. The phone and the money is the way that they do it. If you're still using these two things, you are still a slave. Maybe not mentally, but physically you are a slave. We can be mentally free through spirituality. You know what I'm saying? This world is created to keep everyone enslaved. And this is why it's nearly impossible to break away from those two things. You cannot do it without being persecuted even. Trust me, if you go out into the middle of nowhere and try to build a homestead or whatever, and you don't have some type of internet hookup out there, and you're not spending any money, they're going to come for you. At least here in the States, it's absolutely true. Don't think that it's a coincidence that after the Civil War amendments of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, that the First Amendment they came out with after that was the 16th Amendment. You know, they freed the slaves with the 13th, 14th, and 15th, but then they enslaved the entire population of the country with the 16th Amendment. Right? So the United States has always been a nation of slaves. And I don't think it has any intention of changing that. It only seems to be the intention of expanding that to the entire world. So, there's some food for thought there. Raphael says, Steve Jobs seemed to be very spiritual and very spiritual and anti-phone, ironically. Yes, and he also got like 50 different types of cancer in the end, which is completely unnatural. So, you kind of have to wonder why that happened. Raphael's expanding on that thought and says he was also into minimalism and fasting, and he was probably enlightened. He probably knew something that most people didn't. You know, I think that one of the reasons why the world is going through such a massive spiritual breakthrough, so many people are waking up currently, is really because, you know, like when the pandemic and everything happened, and then all the stuff started coming out about whatever they did during that, which I'm not going to mention, but and what they have been doing since then, the narrative really came down. You know, this is why they rolled out the AI and the deepfake stuff. They've always had that. The only reason why they released AI and deepfake technology to the public when that was their biggest and most powerful tool for the last 100 years probably, at least, is that they wanted to create a situation where nobody could even believe their own eyes, where you could literally see a video of something and you just automatically go, well, it could be a deep fake. I can't really say, right? And now they're taking it an even step further with this fucking hologram thing. You know, the holographic, halftime shows, and now the Operation Bluebeam and all that shit, where they're trying to sow doubt in your actual physical eyes, where they're trying to create a situation where you can see something with your actual eyes in person and still not believe it. You see what I'm saying? It's all a system of control. You know what I'm saying? To where they dominate your mind, not just your body. Where you literally cannot even believe your own eyes. So I think the pandemic and all that was a big catalyst for waking people up, and now they're really playing dirty. So Noi says she's got to go, but it was very good to see you, Noi. Thank you for coming. I think I'm almost done here as well. If anyone's got some more questions, we're at the bottom of the chat. Norfield says, do you have people in real life that you regularly socialize with? Well, I'm very, very choosy about who I allow in my real life. I have come to realize that I don't really want interaction with people who are not spiritual. And the reason for that is not just because I want to talk about spirituality and whatever. I'm happy to be in total silence with someone like that. It's just that I don't trust anyone else. Because I realize that there's a level of trust that you can place in somebody that you've known for 1 hour, and that you've confirmed, like, yes, they have the connection. You can trust that person better than you can trust your friends or family that you've known for your entire life. Because a person who is truly spiritually connected will not purposefully fuck you over, ever. It's just not a thing. So I do have some people like that, and I also keep a hold of the people who I think could become like that. But as far as the sleepers go, I avoid being around them as much as possible because they interfere with my reality. I've found that the world is extremely malleable, and it hardens around people like that in a negative way. So yes, I do have people in my real life that I wouldn't say that I regularly socialize with, but that I cherish. And that I'll always be here for them. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it does. Oh, I have a side question for you guys. So this is actually a really important question for ongoing streams, right? Last time I was in a rush and I forgot to turn on the filter for the chat to be subscriber only. And we had a tremendous amount of trolls. I actually thought they were quite funny, to be honest. I got a couple good laughs out of it. But it does somewhat disrupt the stream, and it makes it much harder for me to get to the bottom of the chat. However, sometimes the random people who are not subscribers do come in and ask thought-provoking questions. Right? And so, For example, our last stream was 3 hours, probably partially due to questions asked by random people who were not subscribing, right? And even the trolls, with at some point the same bullshit starts repeating itself over and over and over again, and we get to see a very clear example of what a low vibrational person emits. You know what I'm saying? It kind of brings forth the contrast to what we normally talk about. You know, so in some way, even the trolls are highly relevant in our conversation. That being said, I don't want to disrupt the experience for the people that are truly listening to what I'm saying and trying to glean some type of spiritual insight from this conversation. So let me know what you guys think, because it also seems to drive a lot of traffic to the stream when I leave the thing totally open. Suddenly people come in, they see the dreadlocks and the unibrow, and they start dropping their caveman comments right away. Well, the caveman comments, as annoying and repetitive as they are, create more traffic because they see that people are engaging with the stream. You know, they're not, the algorithm is not caring what they're saying, it's just caring that they're talking. So they see a lot of comments, a lot of engagement, and they're like, okay, and they start pushing it out to more people. So all in all, I personally think that perhaps the trolls and the non-trolls that come in alongside them actually do bring benefit to the stream. But I'd like to know what your guys' opinion is on that, and if you think that it takes away more from the stream and makes it harder to pay attention to what's going on than it is in a situation like this, where we really only have people who are really serious about this in the chat. I'd love to hear your personal insights on that. Welcome, Jaden Smith. We are wrapping up here, but if you want to drop a question, now is the moment. Raphael says, maybe every second or third stream could be open to all. That's not a bad idea. Like maybe once a week or something we have an open stream. Something, I don't know. I'm going to try to stream more often, but I don't know why. Just trying to, you know, balance whatever I've already done. It seems, as much as I have mentioned that my message would have been very different if I would have waited a little bit longer to talk about this stuff, it does seem to bear some logical reason why, now that I actually have some type of deeper understanding, that it would be kind of silly to only leave up the stuff that I said when I had a much more partial understanding of this process. But as we've mentioned many times, the path to hell is paved in good intentions, and perhaps I'm just going to make it worse. And in my own opinion, it seems to me that to truly understand any of this stuff, it has to be experienced. And I can't completely say that these streams are a loss in that regard, because I have gotten many messages from people that have told me that they had a spiritual experience while listening to something that I was saying on one of these streams. That being said, I have noticed a much more rapid and consistent change in people that I have had in my physical presence. And so I've also realized that the more efficient way of bringing people to a situation where they can experience it for themselves is to just be around people. And so that's kind of why I have taken a little bit of a dip my toes back into the industry, so to speak. Because I wanted to see what kind of effect that it had on the people there who maybe are a little lost in some ways, but also has the toolkit, so to speak, to be able to pursue something like this. You know, to be able to do work that you truly love is the only way to work for money without being a slave. And even then, there's some pretty it's a pretty fine line. You're still feeding the machine, you know. So it's kind of it's a slippery slope, but we're doing what we can with what we got. And I feel compelled to stream. That may or may not be free will. It could just be that this is the part that we're bound to because this happened. And we're just filling the gaps. Carolyn says she likes a mix to open and subscriber only streams. So maybe we'll just alternate. You know, I feel like I had a lot of really deep meditations after the last stream. Regardless of the dramatic amount of trolling. But potentially I think that, you know, I just need to restore some mods. I don't know why all my mods disappeared. I must have done that at some point. And I don't really remember the reason. But I think some mods could definitely go a long way. Though it's not really about the trolling. It's more about the spamming. Because it just makes it harder for me to read the chat. You know what I mean? I don't like to have to read like 20 troll comments to get to each question. But sacrifices are made, right? Anyways, you guys, I hope this was an alright stream. I don't know how long this has been. Oh, it's been about over an hour, so we're good. In chess, am I answering fast? I mean, honestly, I haven't really been playing chess that much recently. I would probably rather just do like a shorter timed game if I was going to play. Maybe I'll try to, you know, corner a day to do a gaming stream, either maybe even just here on YouTube. Just to create something light. But you know, chess is very much a left brain activity, and so I'm not really sure that it's the best thing spiritually, though it does involve a lot of visualization, which is a right brain activity. So perhaps it does help unify. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually playing a lot of chess when I had my Earth connection. Yeah, I don't know. I think that for some people it actually is the perfect medicine. You know, especially for women. You know, I think that even in the case of women nowadays, like most women actually are stuck, are not stuck, but all of society really fosters a deeper connection to the left side of the brain, right? Even in women who are more naturally connected to the right side of the brain, or more naturally have balance there. But I think that if somebody is really heavily into the right brain, where emotion really dominates their decision-making processes, that something like chess could help them advance spiritually by trying to increase their yang energy or their masculine energy. But for me personally, I feel that I spent my whole life with only yang energy, and that my personal process is continuing the unification of the right brain to the left brain. Anna says, is it interesting when we don't know who is on the second side playing, I'm knowing him by his play? Possibly. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. The only thing is, another reason why I often, especially with chess.com, sometimes I wonder if I'm really always playing a person. I think that I kind of prefer lead chess, because without the monetization aspect, chess.com is very much like a paid site. Like they are a for-profit site, not an open source project. They make their money from subscriptions. That it's easy to imagine how they might play some mind games with you if you're not paying for subscription. To try to get you to sign up. It would be very easy for them to spawn computer players that are overpowered for their ranking to make you think that your game is getting worse, in an attempt to get you to sign up for a subscription. If you think about that going hand in hand with their oh, hey, now they're going to offer you the free subscription for a week right after they just crushed you 10 games in a row with overpowered, underranked AI chess players. And not to even say that they couldn't elaborate on that in even more ways than that. But the most simple way that you could think about being manipulated would be the aforementioned one. So, this also ties into one of the reasons why I really want to move this spiritual discourse away from the internet, if I can. Because they can do the same thing with social media. If you've ever talked to Grok or ChatGPT, you'd realize how good these chatbots actually can be. And it's not hard to believe that somebody could just be tricked into, just creating content for the machine, for the people that are enslaving us, and how that no matter what the message is that you're putting out, in fact, no matter what the message is, the more powerful that message is, the more propensity there is for that message to be turned for evil. because they can put out the part, they can choose which part of your message gets out. They can choose who it gets to, right? And they can also choose what you see next after that. So say I'm giving a very spiritual message about maybe manifestation or something like that, activating the parts of your brain or your spirit or whatever, however you want to look at it, that makes you manifest more strongly. And then while you're in that state of heavy manifestation, the next reel can be something that they are trying to manifest. You see what I'm saying? So they can literally take my words on the internet, use it to activate you, and then shift your brain over to something that is their personal agenda that they're trying to manifest on some kind of level. And they can do this on a really large scale. You know, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, so on and so forth. So it's a very slippery slope, you guys. But we're going to try to prevail. I do think that eventually this has to become an in-person thing. It needs to become a very, very private thing. You know, there needs to be a tribe eventually, but there needs to be a very strong and thorough vetting process to the tribe, which shouldn't be too difficult because, you know, suffering is very spiritual. And so through the spiritual process, a natural vetting process occurs, right? And once somebody's truly connected, you can sense it. Any connected person can sense another connected person. You can talk to somebody who has realized the self for 5 or 10 minutes, and you will know with absolution that you can trust that person. So, just some food for thought. We'll take this chat to the Telegram group from there. Thank you all for coming very much. I love you all. I hope that this inspired some new lines of thought for you. And potentially helps you decide if this is a path that you truly want to pursue. Because truly the darker parts of this path are necessary and just as important as the love and light that people love to talk about so much. But realize that when somebody is all love and light, it's very much a incomplete understanding of this process. Anyways, that concludes our stream. Have an amazing day.